Welcome, everybody. I am Tim Sutton, and I am here to bring you a new perspective. If you've seen the shows before, I appreciate you coming back. Thank you so much. And if you have not been here before, I'm a law enforcement officer in the state of Virginia, 34 years. The past 20 some, I've worked with families dealing with disabilities, from autism, other intellectual disabilities, to Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. And it's an aspect that law enforcement needs to know about, but my personal opinion is anybody who comes in contact with the general public needs a better understanding of the disease of Alzheimer's, the disorder of autism. And the past few weeks, we've had some other individuals here on the autism spectrum or dealing with other types of disabilities, which I prefer to call differabilities. Everybody has abilities, but they just do things differently. And but this week we're going to move forward and talk about some elder issues. Dealing with mom or dad or grandparents in their later years, some of whom may end up having Alzheimer's or dementia. According to the Alzheimer's Association right now, worldwide, there are about 55 million people with Alzheimer's or another form of dementia. And right here in the United States, they're estimating around 6.5 million. And that's just what they know about. I think there are probably a lot of cases out there that have not been diagnosed because somebody's living on their own, they don't have family, or for whatever reason. But that is a struggle in those later years, trying to find an assisted living facility, nursing home, and caring for mom or dad or your grandmother or grandfather. So right here locally in the Richmond area, I was familiar with a lady who does tons of stuff in the community, whether it's kids, dealing with kids, the ministry, tennis. My daughters actually took tennis lessons from this lady, but she actually, a few years ago, she started her own consulting business, and it's Jen Dowda and Dowda Senior Consultants to help care partners and families be able to place people, find an adequate place for them to live in those later years. And I'd just like to bring her on board and let everybody meet her and hear what she's doing with her company.
Thanks, Tim. I'm so glad to be here.
Hey, Jen, I appreciate you being here. So, just like I was telling everybody, I know you're very active in the community, doing so many things. I don't know how you have enough time to do everything you do, but you've started Dowda Senior Consultants, and tell everybody. Well, first of all, I'm curious as to how that happened. How did you develop a passion or an interest in pursuing that path?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, I had taught tennis for a long time, a tennis business. And then as my kids were getting closer to college, I was like, oh gosh, college is going to be expensive. I might need to do something else. And somebody in our church had a franchise where they just helped people find assisted living. Okay. And so he hired me to do his tours for him. So I would go with the family and go on the tours and help them find a place. And I worked for him for almost like 7 or 8 years and just kind of fell in love with this whole industry and with all these people and just loved it. But in my mind, there was kind of a bigger need when you're dealing with families. They just don't need to just find an assisted living. They need lots of help and lots of care and support. And so about 2 years ago, I just thought I really wanted to do more than just tour them to communities. So I pulled together a team. We have a dementia specialist. We have 2 physical therapists. We have a moving specialist. We just hired a recreational therapist. So we have lots of folks on our team because there's a lot of needs and everybody has different needs. And so I kind of can sit down with the family and just say, tell me about you, your mom, your dad, your grandparents, whatever it is. And then I've got a big tool belt of things. And I think, okay, you might only need to meet one of the people these 20 people that I can relate to and, refer to you. But we want to kind of all come around you. And there's no point that I want to say to you, oh, well, you're going to have to, that's a picture of a lot of the folks on my team. We don't want to ever say to somebody, oh, go find someone to do this, or you're going to have to go do this,
Right.
Because you don't know. And it's a really, it's a hard time. Folks are in crisis, and they're your family that you love, and you don't want to just call some random person. So I wanted people that I trusted, and now we've kind of built more and more people on that team. And so I have people on my actual team, and then we have folks that we work with really closely, like a home health care agency, an elder attorney, all those folks that we have really grown to love and trust over the years.
I know that's an area. There's elder attorneys, which recommended that when you get involved in this, don't just go get an attorney. You need an elder attorney. And I learned that. I don't know if you're familiar with the gentleman I used to teach with. He's retired FBI, but Bob Schaefer. His wife got diagnosed in the late 40s, and he and I have taught and spoke at different places. He's got a book out called The Mind Thief of the 21st Century, and it's his whole walk through it. And that's one he told me, you need to recommend to people make sure they get an elder attorney. And I know in my job, going out and meeting people that are needed, a lot of times the only thing we know to do is give them a number for the Alzheimer's Association.
Yes.
And then it's up to them to call. But it sounds like you are kind of that middleman to help take some of the burden off.
Exactly. We deal with so many people who, they go in. If you go in and you get a diagnosis of cancer, then your doctor says, okay, here's the treatment plan. Here's what we're going to do. Right. You get a diagnosis of some type of dementia, and they're like, well, sorry, here's your Alzheimer's Association brochure. And, and that's kind of it. And that's a experience that a lot of our families have. And so that's why we're trying to spread the word about what we do and say, call us. And, Missy Harden is amazing. Right. And she's been an occupational therapist her whole life. And she's amazing to be able to come along with families, and we can help come in their home. We don't just help folks move to assisted living if they need to. We can help them do that, but we also help them stay in their home safely. Okay. All of those things are sometimes you just need somebody to listen to you and to, support you, because it's such a hard time.
Yeah. You mentioned Missy, and I'm hoping to catch up with her at some point to talk to her, because it's the dementia aspect. It's, and I've got a class coming up on the 14th here in Richmond, training a bunch of police officers. And if you've met one, you've met one. Every single person is different.
Says that all the time. Yeah.
And, a lot of people think it's a mental health disorder. And it's like, no, Alzheimer's is an actual disease. They may very well have mental health issues. And then there are over 100 different things out there that can cause dementia itself.
Exactly.
And it's not a problem that's going away. So what you're doing, it's, it's not going anywhere, because there are going to constantly be people needing your services. That's one thing I find. There's so much push in telling your parents, I'm never going to put you in a facility. I'm never going to put you in assisted living. But sometimes with dementia and Alzheimer's, it gets to the point where they just can't do it anymore. And then they end up having to do it. And there's a lot of guilt that comes with that. I tell people, do not promise these things, because you don't know. It's just the nature of some of those diseases, some of those disorders.
And you can promise them, I'll always do what's best for you. I'll always keep you safe. I'll always surround you with people that love you. Right. But to promise you'll stay in the home, it's not always what's best. For sure.
And that loss of memory. I mean, you deal with somebody who's 80 years old, and in their mind, they're 16 years old.
Absolutely.
And you need to understand how to, navigate those waters when you're interacting with them. And you kind of have to go where they are. And I know I've had a couple people on the show from different places in the country, and they're saying, "Oh, don't lie to people with Alzheimer's. Don't lie." And my thought is, if you go to their reality, that's their reality, and you just go along with it, because it's difficult to sit there and have your mom ask you when your dad's coming home, and say, "Well, remember, Dad died 2 years ago." And then 5 minutes later, when's your dad coming home? And I said that every time you tell her that, it's the first time she's heard it.
Right. You don't have to lie. You can say, "Oh, let's talk. Remember that time that Dad did this?" And then you just start telling a story, and you start remembering things, and you bring your joy. You just don't,
pull the pictures out, start looking at pictures and things like that. So what, how do you help care partners at home? What kind of things are you able to provide?
Yeah. So for somebody who's walking with dementia, like I said, so Missy, that's kind of all she's devoted herself to the last couple of years. And so she can come into the home. She can meet with the one, living with the dementia, with the caregivers, with an outside caregiver who's coming in, train them, support them. She does a 5-week training support series, a Zoom series, so anybody can do it anywhere across the country.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, she'll come in and meet with them. And so for me, for my business, I really see it as a ministry just as much as a business. And so if we help somebody, people always ask me, how much does it cost? And when I say it's free, they're like, well, then, either they think it's not worth much,
Right,
or
right,
gosh, there must be some trick or whatever. But what it is if somebody does move into a community,
right,
the community gives us a referral fee. And then what I've chosen to do is take that money from those referral fees and put them back into families and caring for them. So part of what I do is I cover all of the costs for Missy and everything she does with families,
wow,
because I believe in what she does so strongly. So all of the training she does, everything she does, she just invoices me and I cover it. And that's why I want to tell people that's how strongly I believe, that's how I want to spend my money is, she can do things I would never be able to dream of doing. And I just have watched family after family after family just be
right.
completely transformed, because there's, as everybody knows, there's not a cure for dementia at this point, but there's so much research that's gone on and so
Right.
many things you can learn. And you could sit down and talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about for an hour and learn so much that it could just transform the way that you're supporting. I think I read something that you did about, it's all of us have someone in our life who's
Right.
going through some kind of brain change. Like, it's just, you can't live without knowing that. So why would we not all, get trained at least a little bit to be able to be kinder, more supportive people? And then if we happen to, I don't know if you've ever seen the program, the Dementia Friend training.
Mm-mm.
It's really cool. It's only it's just like 20-minute online training, and they have like different places that you can go,
Right.
online to learn. So, if you're in a bank and you see this happening, here's some things you could help with, so why not? It's kind of like learning CPR. You might be somewhere and somebody might need it. So we know we're going to be places where people are, walking with that. So how can we support them just as a good citizen,
Yeah, oh yeah, I agree. Back when SunTrust was just SunTrust, they were actually
Mhm.
funded some of my trainings, and I thought,
Mhm.
a bank teller obviously somebody in the banking system.
Absolutely.
A lot of people are dealing with it, but it
Mhm.
would be nice if the bank tellers, the
Mhm.
same elderly gentleman came in every single day trying to withdraw money,
Yeah.
and the conversation says, "Oh, well, you look, you wore that shirt yesterday." They
Mhm.
said, "Well, I didn't come in here yesterday."
Mhm.
You'd like to think those bank tellers could pick up on something
Yes.
because
And the
it's
bank teller is a great example, because what if he comes in and starts doing things that he shouldn't be doing? Right. So
oh yeah,
then it'd be
oh
great for
yeah,
that bank
and
teller to give a heads up. Hey, your dad just took out a whole bunch of money. I'm not
right.
sure this is what you want him to do. Just
Brought
things
some
like that.
stranger in here and cashed a check
Right.
for him or whatever. But
Exactly.
and they're limited to some of the questions they can ask. But that's
Right.
what when I teach, I try to teach some of the behaviors
Mhm.
related to being able to pick up
Mhm.
on things. And I've had people see me in my uniform, and I remember one lady I walked in and she said, "Oh, I love you, Bowling Green police officers,"
Oh, yeah.
and I just went along with
Yeah.
it and
That's great. Yeah.
talked to her. We built up a good relationship, and
Oh.
it's what I find. You alluded to it earlier. People getting the diagnosis of Alzheimer's or dementia,
Mhm.
and then they're being sent on their way.
Mhm.
And what I love about what I do, and I'm in
Mhm.
uniform, I have sat
Mhm.
down in so many houses at the
Mhm.
kitchen table with the care partner.
Mhm.
And I do, when I teach, I have a timeline of somebody's life. I build their whole life up and
Mhm.
then slowly start erasing that short term.
Mhm.
And I sit there and do that for so many people, and they
Mhm.
understand why their loved ones acting this way.
Yeah.
You'd like to think that all the doctors would sit down and explain it to you. What the sundowning,
Yeah.
blaming you for stealing this,
Right.
because they put it somewhere and forgot where they put it.
Mhm.
But I think it's been neat in my career because there's
Mhm.
already a divider between that uniform and the public
Yeah.
sometimes. But to be
Mhm.
able to have somebody with a gun and a badge sit at your kitchen table and explain what you're dealing with, I think it speaks volume. And as you
Mhm.
said, I
Mhm.
tell people what I do as a ministry to help these
Mhm.
families
Mhm.
with disabilities and dealing with this
Mhm.
stuff. So, what
I
area?
would
What area do you? I'm go ahead. I'm just curious where y'all are operating.
Yeah, so we're all over the greater Richmond area. I drove an hour south today to down in Chester. And we've moved a few folks into some communities in Charlottesville. I grew up in Charlottesville, so I have a
Oh,
special
okay.
love for that, but we don't really advertise that yet, because I feel really strongly that when we're working with the community, that means that we're in there all the time.
Right.
We stay with our families all forever. We take them birthday cakes on their birthdays. I hired somebody, and that's all she does is visit my folks, because I want them all to be visited and cared for and loved. And we're bringing in volunteers to help try to visit some of the folks who don't have anyone to care for them. So when I say we cover this area, I want to make sure like I really know those communities. But we've done a little bit in Williamsburg and a little bit in Charlottesville. But for now, I think we're really just going to focus on Richmond.
No, and that's where you get your better quality. And as you build, you may be able to reach out that far, but you want to make sure you give people the care that they deserve. And so when you place somebody or find somewhere for them to live, y'all are still actively involved in that person's life.
Forever. And we can typically, the communities we're moving into are great. And if the family has a problem, they can go to the director or nurse or whatever and, express that. But if they're feeling like they're not heard, then they can always reach out to us. And then we have a little bit more pull, in the community. You can say, hey, we'd love to talk about this. And it's great because then a family, especially when families, has somebody living with dementia, and they might not be able to give their own feedback to what it's like. We can, I have a family move into a community and I'll have another family already living there. And so I can have those two, kind of connect. And just, I'm a big person who, so I love living in Mechanicsville. Everybody knows everybody, kind of all those connections. And so like, we're also trying to do things to support the folks who are still living in their home. So Missy and I had this dream of doing a date night. We did it about a month ago. And because a lot of couples where one is living with dementia get really isolated because, you used to go out with your friends, but now your husband is saying these things and nobody really knows why he's saying that. And it's awkward. So we did this where we just had drinks and appetizers, and we have someone on our team who's a DJ. He's been it for like 35 years and he's super fun. So we did kind of a name that tune, and we all, everybody loves their old music, and everybody sang along. And then at the end, you started to play some slow music, and all the couples got up and slow danced, and it was really sweet. We're planning a big, about Night to Shine. So I'm planning for next spring something called a Night to Remember. That's going to be for seniors, and kind of same kind of big blowout, limos and all that kind of stuff. So we just really, that's another big piece of what we do, is trying to figure out for, a lot of seniors, whether they have dementia or not, life just gets a lot smaller. You spend a lot of your time just going to doctor's visits and hospital and all this. And so we really want to bring a lot of joy into people's lives and have things where they can socialize and be with other folks. And, so even if somebody is staying in the home, or we help them think about maybe doing some day support to let the one spouse, get breaks, or whatever it is that we can do to just, try to support families wherever they are. We just kind of sit down and whatever it is that they need, that's what we bring in and help them with that.
So how do you differentiate it, like as far as assisted living and nursing home?
Yeah.
How do you all decide, figure out which path to take?
Sure. So the great news is, actually, the family I was just meeting with, I was telling them, because she's in a nursing home right now after a health event. And, she's saying she really doesn't want to go to a nursing home because she saw what happened to her parents. And I said, the good thing is where she is now is actually a nursing home, skilled rehab, skilled nursing, that kind of all different names for the same thing. Assisted living is much more kind of residential feel. And so in the old days, assisted living was really just somewhere you lived and, maybe you got a couple meals, but you pretty much took care of yourself. Now, assisted living, it's kind of licensed by the Department of Social Services, and they license it really tightly. And so there are really 4 main prohibitive conditions in an assisted living. You can't be on a ventilator, feeding tube, have a stage 4 wound that isn't healing, or be on continuous IV meds. But other than that, they're allowed to take care of everything that you need. So, I have yet to, once somebody moves into an assisted living, they're able to live out their life there. Hospice can come in, they can, need to be fed, bathed, absolutely everything. So I think there are a lot of people out there who are like, oh, mom need, she can't walk, so she must need a nursing home. And she doesn't, they're really able to provide, and different assisted livings and memory cares are more willing to provide a high level care, and some of them aren't. And that's what we know. So when we meet with somebody, we can say, oh yeah, I know, where you'll be cared for well. And, we tell people all the time, it's not, people ask us, what's the best assisted living? It's not what's the best assisted living. It's what's the best fit for you and your situation. And we work with, lots of them. And so we'll try to figure out, your area of town, your, financial situation. What do you like to do? Are you social? Do you want a bigger place, smaller place? All of those kind of things. And they're just, nobody ever says, oh, we should have waited longer. Everybody's always like, we should have done this earlier. And nobody ever wants to move back home. It's just, it's the unknown. And it's the fact that we all walked into nursing homes where our grandparents were in the smell bad and it was scary
Yeah.
and we didn't like it. And that's just it's just completely changed. And so I love taking folks on tours, and I always tell them, let's just set up a backup plan because you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
You can put your name on a wait list. It's refundable, and just see. And it's amazing to watch families' anxiety level just go down.
Right.
And you're like, oh, this is really nice. People here really are kind and, will care for my loved one.
That's
So,
awesome. How
yeah,
many families would you say since you started? Any idea, ballpark figure that you've
I
worked
do
with?
actually, because I have a data kind of system that I built in
Yeah.
Airtable. And I was just looking at that yesterday. I entered my 325th client.
Wow.
So,
Well, how if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best
mhm,
way for them to
yeah,
contact you?
that's great. So we have kind of a brochure and magnets and website. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, all of that, and that all of those have a number on there that people could
Okay.
call. But also if they're on the Facebook, that's kind of a number that because I don't want to put my personal cell all over
Right.
the internet.
Right.
But then as soon as people reach out to me, then I give them my cell and we kind of go from there. But they can, if you go on our website, there's a contact form or numbers on there. Anywhere you go, if you just Google
What's
Dowda Senior
what's the
Consultants.
website so we can put that up?
Sure. It's just dowdaseniorconsultants.com.
Okay.
And if you go to the website, at the bottom, there's a place where you can click to go to our Facebook or Instagram or to subscribe for our newsletter,
Okay.
which, we'll just kind of send out handy things. Or we did a senior living 101 panel probably like 2 weeks
Okay.
ago. And we thought it was just going to be a little thing. And then after a
Right.
day, it already had 40 people signed up. So we had to move to a different venue. And we just had a massive outpouring for that, which was great. We had
Right.
12 people on a panel. So we had the elder attorney there. We had OTs, PTs, in-home care, moving specialists, kind of all those people. And people
Wow.
could just come and ask questions. And so, they're just, they can reach out to us and we can help them with whatever it is that they need.
If somebody's just struggling with a family member with dementia or Alzheimer's, but they're not looking to place
Mhm.
them, are y'all available to, just talk to them and kind of
Yes.
help them
Yes.
with that? Okay.
Yes. That's a great question. And actually, it's almost like my preference is when somebody calls and they're like, well, we think maybe, we're not really sure. And I'm like, great. This is, I always tell families, I'm like, if you're running through the woods and a bear's chasing you, you can't make any decisions, right? But if
Right.
you're sitting on your back porch, you can make a decision. So like, let's make all those decisions ahead of time. Let's set in place plan A,
Right.
plan B, and plan C. And then let's just set those on the shelf and then just enjoy our lives instead of
Right.
waiting. It's a hard thing. People don't want to talk about it. It's not fun. It's not exciting. And people
Right.
kind of just don't really want to. But if people are willing to plan, we get so excited because there's, there's lots of support. There's lots of technology out there that you can use to
Right.
stay safe in your home. There's just amazing things that are happening all the time. And so we love to help people, ultimately, probably everybody wants to stay in their home as long as they can, right?
Yeah,
So we
of
want to help you
course.
do that and be safe for doing that.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, just thinking about the issues that they're dealing with, the dementia
Mhm.
aspect, and they don't know what's
Mhm.
happening. I'll tell you, it's when I teach, I've got a picture over in from over in Europe of a bus stop,
Mhm.
and they've got these bus stops placed all over the place. Most of them, they're fake bus stops, but they put them near assisted living facilities because the main mode of transportation is that bus. So
Mhm.
when and if they get out, they'll go sit down at the bus stop and just sit there and wait. And the CNAs will come out every once in a
Yeah,
while and round them
that's
up and
great.
bring them back
Yeah,
in. But
I love that.
the wandering and the change in behavior,
Yeah.
I tell people with the dementia aspect, it's like when I tell them, look, if you came to class or you came into work and you thought you remembered using the stove, but you couldn't remember whether you turned it off or not. So that's going to be nagging at you. And then
Right.
if you decide just to blow it off and go to work, you're probably going to be on edge while
Mhm.
the whole time you're there,
Right.
waiting for the fire department to call. Say, hey, we're where your house used to be. I said, the
Mhm.
thing about the loss of memory and all that nagging feelings with somebody with dementia 24/7.
Mhm.
They don't know what they're forgetting. And the difference is you can go
Mhm.
back, check the stove. There's nothing they can
Mhm.
do to
Mhm.
get rid of that feeling. So it's
Right.
frustrating. You end up, and with these care partners, you start telling people that, yeah, my husband or my wife has Alzheimer's dementia.
Mhm.
That friend network just vanishes
Exactly.
because people
Yep.
don't know how to handle it. And it's like, look, that's when they need you more because,
Yes.
it's not contagious. So
Exactly.
get there and give that care partner a break.
Yep.
Let them
Yep.
run errands and all. That's I love what you're doing. Y'all are doing, and
Mhm.
you're so multifaceted.
Mhm. We
So
tell people all the time, like, you need to build your team and we'll be a part of that. Missy helps lead people through that of like, you need, like you just said, write down what can they do,
right,
so when somebody calls, it makes them, people want to help. You have
right,
friends, but they just don't know what to do. And people don't really, know. That's one of our ladies, a little independent living lady. After her husband passed, she couldn't really live in her
do
home.
much.
So
Yeah,
we moved her into a community. It was so fun. She's so sweet. That was one of our birthday cakes. We do them specially. So Flo was a big knitter. So Elisa tried to make
awesome.
it look like
Oh wow, okay,
yarn. So we just really want to be just let families make sure that they feel known and loved, and that their loved ones feel that way. And no matter where anybody is, no matter what kind of brain change they have going on, they can, they deserve all the dignity and respect and love that anybody else
exactly,
does. So um,
exactly.
yeah, and
Wow. Well,
like
you all have volunteers that help
we
go
do.
visit. Okay. How if
Yeah.
somebody wanted to be a volunteer, is there any type of requirement or anything?
Just give me a call and we can chat. And um, yeah, we would love. There's just so many folks who are living in the communities who don't have many people visiting, and we
Right.
see them when we're there. And so, I just think surely there are people out there who would, want to do that. So yeah, you can just reach out to me. We'd love to hook
That's
you up with
awesome.
that
That is absolute. And how many years have you been doing this?
too. By
2 years.
myself, I did it for 8, working for someone else, and then right as COVID, the February
Yeah,
before COVID
that had
started.
to make things difficult. I mean, you've got these people you want to visit and go see, and you couldn't even see
Yeah.
them. How did you, with COVID? I know you were just starting, but how were you able to interact with anybody?
Yeah, so we did lots of Zoom tours and things like that. It actually ended up, in some ways, I kind of almost felt more important to help people because I had been in the communities and I knew what they were like,
Right.
and they just needed support. Like, people obviously needed more support than ever. So it was, um, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't ideal, but we still, people still had to move
Right.
and still had to get help in the home and all of that. So
And at
it
least they
was,
know you're there. And I think
yeah.
the biggest thing with them is knowing somebody cares about what they're dealing with.
Exactly. It's so
And they're not
lonely. It's so,
pushing
and
them
and every
aside.
situation is so different and it's so isolating. And so just to have somebody who's willing to walk in and just sit down and listen to you is,
Right.
that's what I do a lot, is just sit and listen. So,
Sit and
which is
listen.
hard for me because I'm a talker. So
Sitting and listen. Oh, I know.
mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah,
it's just having that company to begin with. But no,
sure.
what y'all doing, I think, is absolutely awesome. And I hope more people reach out to you, and this just grows and grows because again, it's with the baby boomers,
Yeah.
born between 46 and 64, that
Mhm.
population is just growing and growing and growing, and
Yes.
there's going to be such a need. And back to the
Mhm.
dementia,
Mhm.
65 years of age, it's about a 10%
Mhm.
chance you're going to develop Alzheimer's, some form
Mhm.
of dementia. And 85 years old, it's 49, 50%
Yeah.
chance. And
Yeah.
it's not going away until they're doing those tests, but they've got to find something that can get rid of it to,
We do.
we're living longer, so we're more
We
susceptible
are.
to it, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
well, I want to thank you so much for coming on,
Thank you for having me.
and I'm going to try to get back in touch with you. Maybe Missy, talk to her because it sounds
Definitely.
like she and I teach a lot of the same things,
Yep.
and I'd love to pick her brain and kind of tell
Yep.
her what we're doing in the law enforcement aspect, training
Absolutely.
officers here in the county. But I
Absolutely.
do greatly appreciate you being here, and we're going to
Yeah.
hopefully have you back. You're still
Okay.
working with Young
Young
Life,
Life
right?
Capernaum. Yep.
Okay.
Doing
That
well.
would be great to have you back on and talk about that for
I
the
love that.
local people here. But who knows who's going to see this? Hopefully, some other places,
Right.
people around the country and all, they can start doing the same stuff you're doing. So
Absolutely.
tell everybody one last time how to get in touch with you.
Okay. Well, I'll just give you my actual phone number. Then you can, well, okay. So that's the business number. You can call that
Okay.
number, or mine is also an 804 number. It's 852-5366. It's right up the middle of your phone, 852 five
Okay.
three six six.
And the website.
And the website, dowdaseniorconsultants.com.
And you can find on Facebook all over the place, see what wonderful work she and everybody are doing. And
Yeah,
again, look them up, check them out, and contact them if you think they could help you out. So,
I would
Jen,
love it.
thank you so much for being here
Thanks,
tonight.
Tim. I really appreciate it. Have a great night.
All right, you take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye.